Hello. I just have to grab a thingy. Let me see if I saved it. No, I didn't. Hey, Brian. How are you? Hello. I'm just looking to grab a link from my profile, but we're here working on Undersea Hero. Tomorrow is the launch of the Kickstarter. It has been a long road to get here. We started promoting all the way back at San Diego Comic November. The Kickstarter November, and working on a long time. The book is not done, but it's on its way. We've got our delivery dates. We got all kinds of stuff that'll be in the page. If you can go to there's a link in the description. If you go to that page, it will put all the to-doings, all the things that are coming up. I'm going to paste the link, and hopefully there we go. It'll go to Twitch and YouTube, but because it's restream, it doesn't want to go to the other ones. If anyone wants to paste the link for that platform on any of the other threads, feel free. Let me see if I can do that from here. It's tough when you're doing it by yourself, let me tell you. There we go. Now I can close this, so the stream should work better. Links are everywhere. Hopefully people by now are probably sick of hearing me about it, but they're going to have to hear about it for the next month. And my plan is to share all of the goals, as we go. There is an early bird special for the book and a sketch, and it'll save you some money, and you get a book, you get a little sketch with it on a 6x9, and that one is for a limited time. It is only for the first week of the Kickstarter, so that one you have to act faster than the other ones, at least. I have a signing at the alternate universe in Milford. The details are in the description of the video. We started this page a while back. Hey, Dennis, good to see you. Thanks for all the kind words and the support on the social medias. I hope you like the book when it comes out. That's really the hope. To put it out there, and hopefully people want to look at it and want to read it and like the characters. That's the dream, right? Let me get some of these fancy pens out so that we can get to work. I was busy setting stuff up. It looks like on Restream soon I'm going to be able to broadcast also to like Twitch and Instagram. They were blocking that for third-party streaming softwares before, and it's the only way I can broadcast to like a bunch of different places at once. So hopefully that's good for us, and more people can hang out and see the artwork. And all right, well, we penciled this a little while ago. I'm okay. I'm in that nervous yet optimistic stage at the moment. I have not given in to my predilections towards having self-doubt too terribly. So we'll see how it goes. I penciled this part a long time ago, so I'm not as connected with this piece as I usually am. It's one of the reasons I like to do drawings in as few sittings as possible, because I can remember all of the little what's-its and ideas I've had while creating the structure. But when I've been out of it for a little while, I'm coming at it from a totally different perspective. I'm glad you're optimistic also, Brian. You're one of the big inspirations for pushing hard to get this thing made. So I really appreciate that. And of course, the tip just broke off of that pen. Cool. We'll have to grab another pen out of the big bag of tricks. I don't know if anybody saw, but I posted that I did some artwork for the Steamship Authority. Did some drawings for the football game coverage, and I'm actually doing some more. So if you want to see some more of that stuff, like New England illustration, I'll be working on some more stuff for them tomorrow. For the Christmas stroll, if anyone's ever been on Nantucket for a Christmas stroll, it's a lot of fun. I will have artwork for probably the only time you'll be able to buy published pages. The cover to issue 0 is available. It's not cheap because I don't want to part with it, but it's available. I don't like making published stuff available, but that's how much I want this thing to happen. So the artwork for this cover that was a San Diego official debut will be available. And then you'll be able to pick, you won't be able to pick a page, but you'll get, I will pick 12 good pages. I'll make sure they all are good pages. I collect artwork. I know what I'm talking about. So you just have to trust me to pick out a good page. I just can't advertise them because they're not all done, obviously. It's not like you can just flip through the book and pick the page you want. That would be neat. We're just not at that stage right now. I wish we were, but we are not. This is an old-fashioned Kickstarter, and that I need the money to make the project come to life. One of the stretch goals is actually for me to hire some help. I can't really afford to do that at the moment, so I built that in as a stretch goal where it's like, hey, let's make this book happen faster, and let's make it a little easier. Right now I'm inking Correlator's little shoulder pad thing. And if you didn't notice that there are some like nuances to this, and I tend to say that, and I said this about the Tick when I worked on it for a long time, it has the unique ability to actually make commentary about the genre, about the industry in ways that books that are tied to corporations can't. And NEC didn't really have a right to dive into that, but I do. I think that I have a little bit more faith that readers know when you're referring to different stuff in comics. Like, most people don't just. I want it to be accessible to the first time reader, but I also want people who have read a lot of comics to be able to pull even more out of it. And maybe they can use it as a way to teach other people about comics. Like, hey, did you know that this is a reference to this? Or, it's not pop culture references. It's like commentary on the genre itself, like tropes and things like that. It's like, oh, well, this happened in so many different stories, and he decided to change the way that it happens or the way the characters act. It's a little different, but there's things to chat about, things for people to. There's some meat on the bone, as they say. But it still is like a silly comedy. So, like, if you just want to read the silly jokes I wrote, you can do that too. But I like knowing when I, take the time to read something, that if I want to find more than just the narrative, that there's something to be had there. I read a lot of genre fiction. I read a lot of science fiction. I'm reading God, what is it that I'm reading right now? Arthur Clarke right now, one of his short story collections. It's over in the other room. Otherwise, I would have shown it on camera. I love reading short story collections in prose just because I don't generally have time to sit down and read a full novel in one sitting, but I still love to read, so the texture on this is meant to be like a soft coral. There are two types of coral. There's hard and then there's soft coral. If you've ever held like a sea cucumber or a sea sponge, those are common in these areas. Sea cucumbers. It would feel kind of like that. Hey, Uncle Bill's here. I hope it does. I hope it comes together, and I hope people have fun checking it out and decide they want to support it. So I did do a Kickstarter like this in the past where the book was not even close to done. I actually think mine's more done than that one was, shockingly enough. Um, was the Iron Face Kickstarter. And we kept up to date and, we let people know the progress. Obviously, because I have these live drawing streams, anytime anybody wants to get a progress update, they can just show up on a Wednesday night, catch the first 5 minutes, and know where we're at on the project. Or if they want to hang out and watch me work on it, like I'm working on it right now, they're more than welcome to. I just thought that that would be a different. I hadn't seen a Kickstarter do that, and I backed a bunch of them where you basically have like you know, live check-ins every Wednesday, and you can watch it being made. Like there's no it's that's as transparent as it gets, I think, if you're actually watching the thing get built. And it's an ambitious book, but it's being drawn in such a style that I've drawn similarly on the tick in the past. I know about how long it takes me to draw the pages. Um, I just, with my moving recently, starting a new gig, a bill paying gig. It has been a challenge just to get day to day stuff going. I'm behind on mailing some stuff out for people that were internet orders from while I was moving, but I'll get those out this week. I'm not too worried about that stuff. It's just a matter of blocking out time to box up a couple of things and go over to the post office. I do need to buy some boxes though. See, that's about as transparent as you can get when it comes to these sorts of things. Got to go buy boxes. I do have some comic mailers, which those are awesome. I use those Gemini 2 comic mailers. Yeah, they're nice. They're nice. I wish I had them, 10 years ago. Other things in the Kickstarter will be like I shared. You can have your pet fish or favorite kind of fish drawn into the book itself. I know people carry pictures of their pet fish around in their wallet. It's a part of the family on their Christmas cards, things of that sort. That's a joke. We had Bollinger Scale Trains pop in. And they're big time stretch goals. Like if this catches, internet fire, there are big goals. And some of them are actually some that Brian, you and I talked about was like doing a miniature. You know, that's only if the thing hits like big numbers. I'm not saying that it is. Oh, Isaiah, fellow train enthusiast. Well, Brian makes miniatures, so if you don't know his stuff, check out his stuff. And Brian Isaiah is awesome people, so big Tick fan. I think you train enthusiast. I think you guys will get along swimmingly. Yeah, did you see that that stop motion like tick maquette that he built? That's crazy. Puppet. I don't know the appropriate word, but I'm not sure. It's impressive sculptural work. However, it's properly labeled. Ah, the red tail shark. That's a good one. And what I'm planning on doing, and I forgot to update this in the description for that one, is I'll draw the fish on a separate piece of paper, and then you'll get the drawing of the fish with your reward. I mean, it could be just as simple as like I like beluga whales at the aquarium or something, so we can put a beluga whale in, or you know, a stop motion puppet. There we go. That's the correct thing that I was. Here's what Jessica said. Yeah. You guys have an angelfish? That's crazy. Of course, my computer decided to do a quick scan while I was trying to broadcast. That's what happens when I don't use this computer as often. It does all the updates and stuff when I'm in the middle of doing things. The other day when I was trying to work on all the headers and stuff, you saw me update for social media and things. My computer was like, "Hey, how about like a month's worth of updates? We know you only got like 2 hours to work on this stuff. Let's let's use up about 30 minutes of it with a couple of restarts and a bunch of updates." Brian, did you meet Jess or Ryan? I think you might have met them at one of these shows that we've been. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they didn't. Did you guys not go to Boston this year? Yeah, because Brian was my table helper at Boston this year. So see, I know you would have met that. I just assume that that all of my friends have met each other. So, and if I forget to introduce people, I know I look like a jerk in retrospect, but it's because in my mind, because I know all of you, that you all already know each other, and you're like, yeah, yeah, we know each other. Cool. Yeah, I know you were at Rhode Island. Brian didn't go to Rhode Island this year, so Little Giant, maybe Little Giant. Sometimes Brian goes to. He was at. I think he was at it last year for sure. Is he at it this year? Brain's a little mushy, so you'll forgive me if I'm confusing my shows. But according to Jason, I'll be back at Little Giant next year, so um, it's a really great show. Even if I was going just to buy stuff, I would go to that show. It's good dealers, easy to navigate. Just an excellent, excellent old school comic show. Except one thing that's not quite as old school is that it is like there are more families and stuff there. Because when I was doing comic shows back in the late 90s, early 2000s, um, it was mostly just like single folks walking around or couples or whatever. But now you get like the big, all the strollers and the kids and everything else. So, and Giants, Little Giant is a good spot for that too. I think they welcome new comic readers and future comic readers, as I would say. One thing I notice when I haven't inked in a little bit is just it takes me a little bit to get the um, nuanced line. Like I'm pretty good with a blunt line or a dead line when I haven't inked in a little while. But when I want like a little bit more of a varied line width, if an LA show or an adjacent is in the cards for next year, we can all break bread. Hey, I would love to do a show in LA. I've got a few friends out there, including Mr. Gabe Crate, who I would love to bother. He wasn't able to make it to San Diego this past year while I was there, which I was major bummed about. I'd hoped to see him. I hadn't seen him since before COVID, so if I could see he and the missus, and maybe even meet the little Gabester. Uh, yeah, Brian, Little Giant is the one in Concord. Yeah, yeah. And that's the other thing is sometimes I'll see you guys at different shows in different years. So like if you were at Little Giant one year, maybe my brain has confused me into thinking you were at all the Little Giants. So Jonathan says, happy 23 and a half hours to the Kickstarter. That's right. Tomorrow, hopefully at 8, we've got a not quite fun thing to deal with beforehand. But hopefully it'll be at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I was looking on the back end of the Kickstarter and I couldn't see anywhere where it just like you could just tell it to go at a certain time and it would go on its own. It seems like you have to hit the launch button. But I'll check again after the stream tonight. I don't know how late we're going to stream, but we'll do some inking. This wound texture that I use that's like knotted, I started doing after I found there's a method of making clothes out of just single pieces of cloth just by tying it into knots, and I just thought it was super cool looking. And I hadn't really seen that in comics, so I was like, hey, I like that technique. And I used it in Helena, and I just thought it read really well, especially when it was reduced down to the final size. Michael DeFonte, good to see you too. He says, good to see you online. I'll be back. I will back the book when available. Thank you. Goes live tomorrow. Delivery will be in the summertime or sooner. If I get it done sooner, I'll just mail it out sooner. But I wanted to give myself plenty of time, give the printer plenty of time. And like I said, we've been promoting that it would go live in November since I flew all the way out to San Diego. So I have to stick to it. I did think about delaying it at some point, but I also felt like I just needed to hit the gas and get my brain moving and keep things moving forward. And I do trust myself to get it done because that's what I've been doing for a very long time. Does that mean I'll have to go into deadline mode? Sure. But I've got the whole book laid out and I've got the whole thing written. I've got all the dialogue done. I've got all the major stuff in the way. We've just got to pencil and ink this thing. Like all the layouts are done. So for me, sometimes that's the hardest part. Jonathan says I need the pressure. I might. That might be something I do need, especially, in my new setup. I've made that promise and I'm going to hit those marks. Because anytime I've had, those external deadlines, I hit them. If somebody called, if like, my Ninja Turtles connection was like, hey, we've got a cover, you've got 1 day to get it to us. I hit those marks, man. Always did. Now, does life stuff happen? And life stuff definitely happened to me since July. So we are banking that things are going to be a little more consistent, shall we put it that way. At this point in my life, I really do love inking with a brush again. There was a time where I didn't, and I don't know what the heck I was thinking. It's just the flow and the movement. It's just so much more enjoyable. And there's some things that are so small that I can't use a brush with how shaky my hands are, but um, anything where I can swing it. I just want to welcome the chunk of new folks that just popped onto the stream. So, welcome. Working on a page from my Kickstarter project, Undersea Hero, The Great Barrier Reef, which goes live tomorrow. And I really hope you'll take a look at it and consider backing it if you like silly comics. I keep mentioning the big musical number, and it's because I'm really, really proud of the layouts on that sequence. I think it's probably the best storytelling I've ever put to paper, and that's honestly what my strength is. And I think this might be the best I've ever done. So if somebody ends up getting a page from that sequence, boy, yeah, It's multiple 2-page spreads that all work with a whole bunch of panels, and the storytelling works as such to where I could take those 6 pages and the intro and put them on a poster, and they still function as a composition. So I think people are going to be pretty stoked that are storytelling buffs or like the sequential form as much as reading the stories themselves. I know that when I'm reading a comic, I can't just read a comic. Oh, I'm asking questions like, why did they make this decision? Why did they go with this camera angle? Why did they go with all of these different quick little panels instead of one big panel for the pacing? Like, why'd they slow it down here? Why'd they speed it up? Like, that's the stuff that I think about when I'm reading a comic book. I'm asking questions. And, it's pretty neat is that in my lifetime, I've been able to ask a lot of creators like questions like that. Like, why did you make this decision? Why'd you go this route? Um, and sometimes the answer isn't what you want. Sometimes it's just, I thought it looked cool, or, the deadline made more sense to move the camera quick or have more action there because we had to finish this thing in a month. I've reached the point where I no longer need the GPS to find where I live, since I just moved. That was a nice feeling. I still have a lot of stuff in boxes, I gotta say. One thing I can promise that people that know me is that I'm not like a carnival barker when it comes to selling my work. I'll probably do one and a half, maybe 2 posts a day where it's like, um, maybe a different. It'll never be the same picture twice. It'll always be, a reward. It'll always be something I'm drawn at that moment. Um, but I tend to keep it pretty low key. And I promise not to spam people's inboxes with the "Why haven't you backed my Kickstarter yet?" If people don't like it, they don't like it. I may have another store signing either on the 9th or on the 30th, the last day of the Kickstarter. I'll let people know. I was trying to set that up the other day. I got a call and follow up. I sent them an email, but I didn't hear back after they expressed interest in having me come draw stuff for free for their customers. As long as I can pass out flyers and, hang out near the new release rack. Jonathan, I'll let you know if that one comes through. It's at a store you might want to go to, just for shopping purposes. What's everybody else up to tonight? I'm doing all the rambling. Everybody have pasta for dinner tonight? No, we had breakfast for dinner. We had I made myself an omelet with tomato and cheese. We had some sausage, some breakfast sausage, some tater tots, grilled tomato. Got to have some vegetables in there. You can't just I can't just have starch and protein. Jonathan says he can be the tough guy, promoting the Kickstarter at the store. Heck, I might even ask the owner if I can bring my laptop. Go, hey, you want to sign up right now? You can sign up right now. We will sign you up for a Kickstarter account so you can back my book. I feel like if that's the case, the platform should be giving us something if we sign up enough people to their platform just to back our book. Michael's trying to get as many pages done in his book tonight as he can. I understand that feeling. I'm not going to get pages done, but if I can get this panel inked and, maybe another one, I would feel pretty good. I haven't had too much time to work on my comic lately, but that will be remedied shortly. And I fully expect someone to pop into the comments who keeps commenting on things, asking if I had shipped their box, even though I told them I would not be able to ship it, and I would let them know when it was shipped. But we shall see. A Kickstarter kickback. That's right. That's right. Jonathan's a real tough guy. I suspect that the fear will be felt, the intimidation, pure intimidation. I don't know. Pick the biggest enforcer in the history of the NHL. Or scariest hitter, like in the NFL, like LT in his prime. There we go. One thing I have noticed is that people don't necessarily understand that the designs are supposed to make you laugh. I don't know. I think that the coral shoulder pads are very funny looking. So they made me laugh. That was and of course the cod piece, the giant cod piece that he wears. Jonathan says, bring my 3-wood or Louisville. While I know that a golf club can be swung at a higher velocity, I still think the baseball bat's more intimidating. That's why whenever I draw Casey Jones, I have him holding the bat instead of the golf club. I don't know why. I just think it's a scarier thing. Maybe because it's more familiar. I don't know. I just find it scarier. On Tubi, there's a 24-hour MST3K channel, so we've had that on a lot on the TV lately when we don't want to decide what to watch. And honestly, I don't watch a ton of TV. It's like after work, as I'm falling asleep on the couch late after working, work, and then comic work. Bring your electric eel, says Brian to Jonathan. I feel like he needs another little line there. I don't want too many lines. I've actually pared back some of the line work so that it's not too rendery. I want it to be more about the structure and the composition than overly rendery. Ron Mars, who's a friend of mine, on Twitter recently had a comment about rendering being used to hide flaws in drawing and in structure. And I believe it's absolutely true. Because I know I did it myself when I was a young artist. Like, oh, people really like when I put a ton of lines on it because they can see effort. They can see, they can be wowed by the time put into it, even if they don't recognize that the structure and the drawing itself is not very good. And it was my drawing. I just didn't. I was not experienced enough to recognize where I needed to fix things. Lately I've really been focusing on the in-between portions of joints on the human figure. What I mean by that is like the volume of the joint itself. Because if you just have an arm, here, we'll do a quick little drawing. If you just have an arm that bends at a 90 degrees and you don't give enough volume to this joint here, your arms will never be proportioned correctly. It'll look like a skeleton, but there's all sorts of meat on top of that skeleton. And again, it's just having the different shapes that come together. There's our hand. And knowing that when, like, this is straight on, but when I have it coming towards me, like here's that shoulder socket, it's closer. So this joint will not be as big as this one, but it is bigger than it was before. And where the connective portions are moves. Because now the volume of this is showing that the break in the elbow that was here is now up here, and it's a little smaller because of this volume and the way that bending reacts to that volume. Jonathan Bryan says he could leave a seahorse head. You could leave a seahorse head in someone's bed with a Godfather reference. I think that would be even. Have they ever done that in Aquaman, or is it just too on the nose? This being my first Kickstarter, first solo Kickstarter, I don't know if the number of pre-launch followers dictates how the whole thing's gonna go. So I don't know. I'm asking for $3,000 to make this thing go. Based on all my other comics that I've produced by myself, like Helena and stuff that I did without Kickstarter. I went back in my records, and it's pretty much what it costs. It's pretty much what it costs for me to put out a book of a Fat Cat Funnies book. It's not always all at once, but this would make it a lot easier to do everything that I need to do to put out the book. And I'm hoping that it leads to other Kickstarters, because I know Jay wants to do a Fat Cat Kickstarter. And, I'd love to expand what we're able to do with other creators. But we got to get the first one going, and we got to get established and know that we can deliver everything, and that everybody likes it. And one thing at a time, right? Sorry for the bumps. Still getting used to my new space, so. Gonna have to use a little glob of white out. That little cheekbone mark got too far ahead of itself. You can see it's almost touching where his smile is, and it breaks the illusion. Do I have my templates? Probably not. Maybe I do. Let me take a look. If it's in my laptop case, I will do this properly. I can't find it, of course. Brian says he has several friends that he'll send personal invitations to my Kickstarter and encourage them to get on the ground floor of the newest, greatest comics. They're not reflected in your pre-launch count on Kickstarter. That's true. That's true. But thank you. Thank you very much. That's really nice. A couple of my friends that have done Kickstarters have gotten the Kickstarter badge, like projects we love or whatever. I don't know if that's even possible with a first Kickstarter. But I guess we'll find out. That would be really neat. The sketch covers, like the ones we've been doing on the stream, these are available also in black and white and watercolors on the Kickstarter. I tried to put anything I could think of that was things that I bought on Kickstarters. I just didn't repeat some of the stuff that I didn't like on Kickstarter, so I tailored it to hopefully what people will like. Actually, I'm probably going to have to cut this short at like 9 o'clock to go in and look at some of the delivery dates and stuff. I don't think I put a delivery date for the stretch goals. Like if we get one of the manufacturing delivery dates for like a plushie or something, I assume we can push back the delivery just because it would take longer to manufacture. Because of everything that's going on tomorrow, I pretty much just have time to come home and like hit the launch button. Jonathan asks, what's the criteria for getting that badge? I have no idea. I think it's like the Kickstarter platform staff picks the ones that they like, but I don't know if that means that they only give it to ones where they've worked with them before or what. So I don't know. I've seen some of my friends get the badge, which is neat. I don't know. I think that would be something worth touting if it happened. Yeah, I honestly have no idea. This is all news to me. If my buddy Jeff McClellan were in the audience, or if Nate or anybody that had done a bunch of these, I would ask them. But you're stuck with me, so I'm sure it's Googleable. to turn that into a horrible, not real word. Geeks and Drinks stopped in. Geeks and Drinks asked what some of the tiers are. Well, we have all sorts of tiers. I mean, they range from like the back without reward for whatever you wish to provide to, be a big shot producer, where you get like one of everything, and there's some one of ones, and there's original artwork, there's Zoom calls, there's portfolio reviews, there's um, I find you a sweet shell on the beach to go with your uh, Kickstarter package. I have all kinds of stuff. Um, and they're all different price levels. So like if you only had, $20 to toss my way, there's room for $20. There's even room for less. But if you really like my stuff and you wanted to get, a bunch of things, you could do that too. You could spend, $2,000. There's also that I just added last night for retailers and for online store vendors and artists. Either there's a retailer pack, and then there's also a exclusive cover. And if you want an exclusive cover to either draw your own or have me make one, in this instance, if you wanted me to draw it, I would do it without charging for a cover fee. So you would get the books with the cover on it, but you would not get the original artwork because it's only for 100 comic books. Chad Burdett says he'd include the campaign in his crowdfunder corner. Thank you so much. That's really nice. Thank you, Chad. All of the Undersea Hero hopefuls, thank you as well. But yeah, I'll really start to share out the stuff as it is live. But yeah, you could spend anything from $1 to $2,000 or whatever. With the add-ons, you could spend as much as you want. But um, there is an early bird special that is only for the first week, where you get the book and you get a little sketch with it. Those little 6x9s that I like to do. Um, and you'll get to pick your character. If you want an Undersea Hero character, great. If you want the Tick, if you want somebody else, I don't remember what the price on that was. It was not very high. I think it was for the same price as what I charged to do the sketch, if I'm remembering correctly. I just want this book to happen, and I'm willing to invest in it. The retailer pack, it comes with 6 copies of the book, 5 of the regular cover, and then 1 variant cover. And then it also comes with a point of sale piece of paper, and it also comes with promo posters and probably some flyers too. So I wanted to make it so that a small store or retailer could carry the book if they wanted. And it's a triple size comic. This is not a single issue. You're getting a 3-issue miniseries all in one shot. So when you're like, oh, why isn't it $4 or whatever? It's because you're getting more than 3 full comic books. I have maxed out what my printer tells me they are capable of stapling together. So there is no way to make the book bigger without going to a different type of binding. And I really don't want to do that for this one. Users' past activities or how the actual Kickstarter goes. I mean, I back a fair number of Kickstarters. I'll share it out, and we'll see what happens. If you guys can help me get that, that would be awesome with the shares and the likes and the comments. I try to reply to all comments because that helps more people see it. Like even if you're like, oh, I'm so tired of looking at these things. If you just throw a comment on there, I mean, honestly, I think if just the people that I've helped with their Kickstarters backed me, I think we'd be okay. But I don't, it's not a tit for tat thing. So they may not even really like my work. They just wanted me to do a cover for them or something. I don't know. You never know. You never know. It's a fickle business sometimes. Oh, thank you, Geeks and Drinks. He says they'll keep an eye out for it. I'll be posting it everywhere, so if you want to get the notifications or whatever when it goes live, just give the pre-launch a follow. Um, yeah, and like I said, every Wednesday we'll be here to give an update. So all through the campaign, we'll be giving away stuff on the live stream. I'll try to pop in, more than just once a week. I'll pop in unannounced. I don't have any like printed out handouts or anything to be like, hey, look at these things. I just have, I might do a walkthrough on it. Like we'll do a screen share during the live stream next week, maybe. I think my computer does that. It does it for like Zoom calls, so it should be able to do it for a broadcast. So, but yeah, $3,000 is what we're shooting for. And there's situations where three backers could make it happen, but hopeful, but not guaranteed. And I considered lowering it, but I didn't want it to be one of those where I ended up just paying for everything anyway. If I wanted to do that, I would have just made the book myself, just like the Helena stuff, on my own dime, on my own time. But I wanted to. People have been badgering me for 15 years to do my own Kickstarter, so um, here's we're giving it a go. Honestly, I got badgered more for, I don't know, maybe what I got badgered more for, either this or the fact that I never watched Game of Thrones while it was happening. People were like, "You love fantasy. How are you not watching this show?" I don't have HBO. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please don't yell at me. Well, yes, that is a talking penguin for anyone new to the house. Um, I have to get a ruler for the sides of the table, and I smudged his little fin. So I don't think I'm gonna lower it. It was just a matter of like, I was just it's that self doubt creeping in. It's a new project. It's goofy. I hope people like the silliness, but I know there's people who like their comics silly. They like them dark and not silly. It's serious. People in tights are serious. Hey, however you enjoy your comics, enjoy your comics. I'm in a silly mode because I was reading some Gru the Wanderer last night. Do we have any fans of Gru in the audience? I love Sergio Aragonés's Gru. It's one of those delightful books that honestly you can pick up any issue from the original run. You know, the epic Marvel or the PC run, even the early like Image stuff. It is just a delight every time I sit down and read it. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Sergio a handful of times in my career. And he's always been kind and generous with his time. And, you know, anytime I talk to him, he took me talking about comics seriously, which when a pro of that stature speaks with me when I'm young or, you know, just not as, I don't think anybody's as famous as Sergio, honestly, but um, thank you. Sorry, I try not to sneeze on camera. These are little miniatures, of course. As you can see, he picks up the Undersea Hero with his two fingers like this and throws his hands up in the air, and then, you know, little figures. I'm going to take it and grab it, and then you'll see it like flying out of his hand over here. This part's going to get shrunk down so much that even though I'm putting this detail in, it's not going to matter when it's, because it's this tall right now. It's an inch tall, and when it prints, it is going to be 40% smaller, so it's going to be that tall. Well, we got big stretch goals. Should I tell you guys? Should I let my friends here know what the last most ridiculous stretch goal is that I came up with? I came up with stupid level stretch goals. I mean, the biggest one, like, I originally tried to create a Kickstarter for the Tick back in the day, and it was at the request of NEC. You know, I developed all these stretch goals for the Tick, and one of them that I just had to bring over because it was just so funny was just that if we got to like $100,000, I would buy a cheap car off of Craigslist, paint a bunch of stuff on it, and in this case, it would be fish. And drive it to a different convention, like somewhere far away, and live stream the whole thing. Or not just live stream the whole thing, but do check-ins and document the whole thing. You know, I would hope it's like a beat up old VW Bug. That's like one of my dream cars. But yeah, that's one of them. That's one of the more ridiculous ones. There are some that, like, who knows if it became, you know, people liked it a lot and lots of people shared it. You know, there's some that are very plausible. Like, you know, there's one where we do another Space Frog book with Jeff McClellan, the writer of The Tick. There's all kinds of very attainable goals, but that's one of the absolutely ridiculous trying to make people laugh goals. The rewards, there's some serious ones, but there's also just some funny ones because I like things that are silly. So there are silly rewards on top of there being, you know, the book, the artwork, that stuff. One of them is for actual scientific research, which involves me going to the grocery store and buying a bunch of fish from the store and presenting them to our cat, and he decides which one is the best fish. And then we make like a statistical analysis of it, and we include it with all of the digital rewards. I feel like mankind would benefit from such knowledge as what fish a cat decides is best. See, now I feel like I'm spoiling some of the jokes for you, but there's also little illustrations with all of them, so you'll be able to get the full effect of. There's little cartoons that I drew throughout most of it. You get to see my ridiculous self-portrait, which looks kind of like a gargoyle. See, Brian, it would be very funny, and it would go very wrong. Like, there's no way we. I mean, it would have to pass inspection and all that stuff, but like, it would totally break. Like, if I had to drive that car to San Diego or Chicago, it would break down. Like, it's gonna break down. So we would have to have, like, it would have to be multiple cars driving, one behind us as like the safety car all the way there. Can't believe how loose I left some of this stuff. It would be funny if someone spent that money. I tend to think of it as the person who's going to buy that. Oh, that's a stretch goal, so that's cumulative. So they would have to buy like I don't know, like 100 drawings or something. So it would be as if the Undersea Hero community as a collective was like, yeah, we're gonna give you as much money as I don't know, like part of the government budget, which would just be laughably absurd. Um, I just think it would be. There's all kinds of cartoons laced throughout, and if you like my humor, if you read the one issue of the Tick where I got to write like most of it, I would say. If you like that humor, just without as much editorial oversight, shall we say. And I'll share some of the stories of Undersea Heroes publishing possibilities that had happened at some point, but you know, that's for another day. I don't know what exploding kittens is. I've kind of exhausted my have other people do artwork situation going on at the moment. I appreciate the ideas, but it's like kind of late in the game to commission an artist to do something since it's launching tomorrow. Um, but I've got my little video clip. I've got um, each of the reward tiers, and I'm sure the fellas like Craig and because we've got variant covers by Craig Rousseau and Joe St. Pierre and the great Rich Woodall. Tried to get Campana to do one for me, but he's too busy off drawing his Red Goblin and whatnot over at the Marvell house. Now the game's in all the stores. It was the most successful Kickstarter game ever. Well, I don't think we're gonna be the most successful Kickstarter comic ever, considering that there have been some that have raised like $1 million. If we get our $3,000, I will consider us fortunate and feel very blessed. If we hit some stretch goals, I would be thrilled. But most first-time Kickstarters, they put they put it out for like a few $100s, and I know they end up, paying for some of the Kickstarter themselves, and they just want it to look like it got funded. If my work does not deserve to be funded, then we will take it at that. We'll regroup and we'll figure out our approach. Maybe I just need to be the old-fashioned self-publisher like I used to be. Or I'll go digital. Who knows? But we're taking the swing. We're going the Kickstarter swing. I can't believe I'm putting this much detail. It's going to be like a ½ inch tops when it's shrunk down. But if somebody ends up with this page, they'll be happy I did put the detail in. This page could be yours. I think it's at like I think the page of artwork is like 200, but you get signed books, you get all kinds of stuff with it. So very few things are just the book. There is a tier named after a fellow creator who has nothing to do with the book, but he did a random Facebook post. The writer's name is Paul Story. He did a random Facebook post just being like, I love my friends. I will continue to buy your work, but please have a tier where I don't have to get all of the stretch goals or stickers or any of that stuff. It's just the book. So the just the book level with no stretch goals, no anything is the Paul Story level. It's funny on the chessboardy action figure supervillain miniatures board here. Anybody who saw Spaceballs knows where it's going. But this right here, no one will notice till the very end of the book, but this figure right here is actually the first appearance of a major character. The first cameo, illusion, whatever you want to call it. Hold on, somebody's coughing. I have to make sure they're okay. You okay? Okay. Okay. Of course, I was stepping on that thing that I need later. Person coughing is okay. Just had some tea go down the wrong pipe. I'm surprised I'm able to get these lines out right now. I was having some trouble drawing yesterday because honestly, I just haven't had time to draw as much as I would like. I don't suspect that this book will, make $1 million, but I would like it to get funded and make some people laugh. That's the goal. I'd love it to be one of those books that somebody says, at the end of a tough day, I'll crack it open, even though I've read it before, and it still makes me laugh. Like that's what I would like it to be. And if everything goes according to plan, which is get funded and come up with some cool stuff for next year. I would love for the next Kickstarter of mine to be either the next book or Helena or you know I would love to alternate between the two just because I like changing up my creative stuff, or I've got other projects that I've wanted to do. I've got a horror story I wrote. Got all kinds of stuff in the old noodle. But yeah, we're gonna give away sketch covers on the stream starting next week. And all you got to do is like and share, and you get entered to win one. Just like the old days, just when we first did uh, the sketch relief. And yes, that is the letter M on his butt. They're standing on like little sea rocks instead of pedestals. I was like, pedestals you have to draw perfectly with their little circles. Make it an organic shape, that's still functional. And you can fudge it a little bit. You can make those creative decisions where, you don't have to have the perfect perspective. And it's not as noticeable. Could we do the same thing on the table? No, because then it wouldn't read as like a table necessarily. And I need it to read as a table, so we'll have to get our ruler out for those parts of the table. And he's wearing Crocs, yes. Let's get our ruler. It's in my bag still, but it's not too far away. This is the ruler I recommend to everybody. I mean, it has saved me so much time with the bevel, with the grid printed right on it. Anytime you have to do a bunch of parallel lines, it's great. Oops, I have to white out that little part right there that I just messed up. That's an easy fix though. And right here where I need a parallel, I can just put this right on top and line it up with that line right there that I just drew. I want to add just a little extra because I think it needs to go a little further. And there. The only line I kind of got to fudge is this one here. I'm going to do a pull line and go about halfway. And then I'll do another pull line and go about halfway. And it's not perfect, but when it gets shrunk down, I promise you it'll be tight enough that nobody notices. And then this part I can just kind of, because it's a model and I like having like really, it's animated. So, you know, I intentionally exaggerate the lines and the shape. So that we pull real quick, boom. Want that line energy, that line confidence. And it makes anything add arcs to things instead of just straight lines, and it just gives them much more character. I have to pull those lines real quick because I don't have a steady hand. Some people are able to pull those lines really slowly or push those lines. The people that can push a steady curve, I don't know how they do it. See, that's a push. And I can do it real quick with my wrist or my shoulder. I can pull it with my shoulder, but it is not easy when you have not steady hands. This is like a little model house that's on the board here. And it'll make sense later what it is in the story. It's got like a little cast shadow from that roof part right there. A little bit of a Simonson texture there. Let's get our brush pen out because we're still framing things. I'm still using the shadows to frame things. It's not just a light reactor. You have to design where those shadows are going to help direct the eye. And for me, I want to close off this edge of the table. So I'm going to shadow that in, black it out. Like that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the facing side here. Right now I'm pulling a little bit of a line here. Now because there's a lip here, you see that there's like a lip like on the edge of the table. When the shadow hits that, it's gonna off center. Like it's not gonna go, if you go a straight line here to here, you're gonna lose that depth. So if you leave the depth there and you just split it off, even though it's not accurate, it reads right. It's one of those comic book things that like someone explains to you or to me when I was learning this stuff, the way to do proper perspective. And I'm thinking I have to follow this to the letter. But I find out that there are places where even the best of the best, like the Alex Toths of the world, have altered it to exaggerate because it reads better, you know? They've made a creative choice to do that. And I want a texture on this that reads like felt. You know, it's got like little, almost like tiny little cloth clippings. And so I will just add some little vertical textural elements, little, not dots, they're not dots, they're closer to little lines like this, but they're so small that they look like dots. And again, this is something that once the color is on, like most people aren't going to notice, but I want the original also to exist as a thing that's nice to look at, and it's a complete image. So I will add this little extra bit, knowing that when it's shrank down and colored and printed, that you're going to lose it just because I want it there. And I've had instances where I've been told that it's not necessary at all, and I think it is. I don't know. I think it is. So I'm thinking about the original sit on in a binder, or being hung up on a wall if we're lucky. I'm not sure. I may add some more. I may not, but it gives you an idea. It just also gives you a presence of texture there. I need that to break there. Then we'll put a little shadow underneath his hair, because he's got real long hair. And then we'll texture this like it's glass. And then we also need the floor texture. I try to have a shorthanded texture when I'm cartooning. I'm very conscious of wanting to be able to delineate one thing from another on a single piece. And I want it to be instantaneous. I don't want people to have to wonder like what something is made of when they look at it. I want it to be easy. I want them to read it and be able to like get the whole story as quickly as possible and get the whole thing. And on the correlator ship, there are two types of floors. There's a grid floor, and then there is also a tapestry floor. But in this case, it is the grid, so we're going to have to grid it out real quick. Let me see where this vanishing point is. This vanishing point's pretty far off the beaten path. We may just kind of eyeball this one and just hope it works out. This is an instance where we're just going to try to busy it and hope everybody's cool with it. And what does that mean? Just like we talked about earlier, it means that I am going to throw some lines on here in a manner that's decorative as much as it is constructive. Graphical elements are really important in cartooning, and it's something that I had to be taught how to use by really good cartoonists. And one of the tricks that they taught me was that they always have to look intentional. Graphical elements can never look like an accident or just be placed on something. Otherwise it looks like it's sitting on top of your artwork and it's not a part of your artwork. And there are some artists that are just actually masters of graphical elements. That Will Eisner comes to mind, but also Frank Miller. Even now, he knows how to use graphical elements in ways that are sometimes blown up by the colorist, to be frank. But like when you see his pure black and white work, just unbelievably good. Now this is where we can sort of compete with ourselves too much. Let's see if we can get this in camera. I'm trying to make it so that our, oh, of course, the paper moved. And someone's going to ask, well, why the hell did you grid out the floor? Well, I was working on the issue 0, and what ended up happening was I just needed something, a texture that I could do that did not require me to relay out pages. And actually, grids are on every page, believe it or not. You just don't see them because we usually erase them. I'm wearing a sweater, and it is currently doing what it is named to do, which is making me sweat. And it's not perfect, but I think it'll work. I think it'll work just fine. I think my headphones are picking up noises from the TV or somewhere else. We're going to finish gridding this out, and then we're going to call it a night. And again, once we lay the single tone over this, you're not gonna see any of this background. But if you're the person who owns the original, you're gonna be like, hey, look at all that detail. This is also one of those things that if I were doing it digitally, it would take about 4 seconds. So we're witnessing the work of a dinosaur. Down. Oh, I missed a few lines there. Sorry. There is something warm about hand-drawn as opposed to digital. I would agree with that. There's definitely, you can tell it's made by a person. I actually had to do some technical drawing for the first time in a very long time recently, and let me tell you, my line art from that, still, you could still see my little shaky hands, even though I'm using a ruler the whole time. Now I'm just going to shore up this line a little bit, meaning I'm going to increase the line thickness just a tad, so it differentiates a little bit more from the background. And again, nobody's going to notice that, but that thicker line right there, just next to those, is more obviously not the same. And of course I missed those lines again because they were not part of my original sketch, but we'll get them in there. There we go. Well, we got that panel pretty much inked in, so I think we'll call it a night. I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you for stopping in, and remember that the Kickstarter goes live tomorrow. You know, it's what I've been working so hard for, and thank you all for coming and hanging out with me, and yeah, let's make it happen. I'll see you next Wednesday. Good night, everybody.